Picture this, the single most devastating moment in all of Attack on Titan. Erwin Smith, mortally wounded, lying in the rubble of Shiganshina. 1 Titan serum, 2 men dying, and Levi, the man who has lost everyone he has ever loved, forced to choose between his best friend and a kid he barely knows. Now what if Levi had already lived through that moment once before? What if he was reborn, with every memory, every loss, every scar, and got a second shot at changing it? Could he save Erwin? Could he stop Eren before the rumbling swallows the world whole? And just how different does everything look when humanity's strongest soldier already knows exactly how the story ends? Let's be clear about something from the jump. A reborn Levi with all his memories isn't starting from zero. He's starting from the finish line, looking backwards. He already knows that Mike Zacharias gets eaten alive and can't even scream because the Beast Titan takes his ODM gear. He already knows that his entire Special Operations Squad, Petra, Oluo, Gunther, Eld, get wiped out in the Forest of Giant Trees by the female Titan while he flies off chasing Eren. He already knows that Erwin loses his arm in the 57th expedition. He already knows that every single decision he made in his first life cost him something. So the real question isn't what he knows, it's what he actually does with it. Petra and the squad. Let's start with the first major point of change. In the original story, Levi leaves his squad to chase the female Titan deeper into the Forest of Giant Trees, fully trusting them to hold the line. And they do try, but Annie in her female Titan form systematically kills Petra, Oluo, Gunther, and Eld one by one. By the time Levi comes back, they're all gone. This is the wound that never fully heals for Levi. He visits Petra's father after the expedition and has to stand there, in silence, while the man talks about his daughter's future, not knowing she's already dead. Now reborn Levi knows Annie is the female Titan. He knows her exact strategy, and here's what changes everything. He doesn't leave his squad. Instead of flying ahead alone, Levi stays. And the moment Annie's female Titan targets one of his soldiers, Levi is already there. He knows exactly how she fights. Her crystal hardening on the nape, her precise leg sweeps, all of it. He's seen it already. And unlike the first time around, he goes at her early, with full intent to end it right there in the forest. Now, does he succeed? Annie's hardening ability is no joke. But here's the thing, Levi doesn't need to fully kill her. He just needs to stop her long enough to protect his squad and let Hanji's capture plan work. And with his squad alive and Annie restrained earlier, Erwin can proceed without the catastrophic losses that plagued the original expedition. Petra lives. And that alone changes Levi's entire trajectory. Section 3, the Uprising Arc. This one's trickier, because the Uprising Arc, the government corruption, Kenny Ackerman, Historia being forced to become queen, a lot of that has nothing to do with Titans. It's a political war fought inside the walls with guns and knives. And Levi's history with Kenny is deeply personal. Kenny was the man who found a malnourished Levi sitting beside his dead mother in the underground, took him in, taught him how to fight, how to survive, and then left without a word when he decided Levi was strong enough to make it alone. He never even told Levi they were family, that Levi was his nephew. In the original story, Levi and Kenny come face to face again as enemies during the operation to rescue Eren and Historia from the royal government. And in a dying conversation at the end of the arc, Kenny finally tells Levi the truth, that he's his uncle, before handing Levi a Titan serum and breathing his last breath. Levi was visibly shaken, not because of what Kenny said, but because Kenny, who had lived his entire life being selfish, did something selfless at the very end. Now reborn Levi already knows all of this. He already knows Kenny is his uncle. He already knows how that conversation ends. And knowing that changes how Levi approaches this whole arc. Instead of fighting Kenny as just an enemy, this version of Levi sees him differently from the start. He understands the man, his obsessions, his limits, his loneliness. Does Levi try to save Kenny this time? Honestly, probably not in the dramatic sense. Kenny isn't someone who'd let himself be saved. But what Levi can do is make peace with that relationship earlier. And that matters, because in the original timeline, the lesson Levi took from Kenny's final act is part of why he chose to let Erwin die peacefully rather than force him back to the battlefield. That thinking, that philosophy, it's still in him. Section 4, Shiganshina, the moment everything changes. And here we are, the battle of the return to Wall Maria, the single most important moment in Levi's life. And this time, he's walking into it knowing exactly what's coming. Let's quickly recap what happens in the original timeline so we're all on the same page. The Survey Corps reaches Shiganshina district to seal the wall and investigate Eren's father Grisha Yeager's basement, which holds the truth about the outside world, but the warriors are waiting for them. Reiner is hiding inside the wall. Zeke and the Beast Titan are positioned outside with a horde of Titans. The trap springs. The scouts' horses are cut off. Zeke's Beast Titan starts hurling chunks of the wall like cannonballs, massacring the Survey Corps soldiers. Erwin makes the call, the one everyone in the fandom still argues about. He leads the surviving soldiers in a full suicide charge against the Beast Titan, using their bodies as a distraction so Levi can get close enough to take Zeke down. Most of them die. Erwin gets hit and is left critically wounded. Levi tears through the Beast Titan and cuts Zeke out of his Titan form, fulfilling his end of the plan. But when he comes back, he finds Erwin barely alive, and Armin barely barely alive after being burned by the colossal titan. One titan serum. Eren, Mikasa, and Levi himself are all standing there, all with something on the line. Levi was seconds away from injecting Erwin when he remembered something. Before the battle, Erwin had told him something raw and honest, that all along his reason for sending soldiers to their deaths wasn't purely noble. It was also personal. He needed to know if his father's theory about the world outside the walls was true. That obsession had driven him and haunted him for his entire life. And in that moment, Levi realized Erwin was ready to let go. He was finally tired of carrying that dream. So Levi chose Armin, and Erwin died peacefully, and the fandom never fully recovered. Now, Reborn Levi, he knows all of this. He knows about the trap at Shiganshina. He knows Zeke is positioned outside the northern gate. He knows Reiner is hiding in the wall. He knows the scouts' horses get cut off. He knows Erwin leads the suicide charge, and he knows what it costs. So here's the big question. Does knowing all of this actually let Levi save Erwin? Let's think about this carefully, because the easy answer is yes. If Levi warns Erwin ahead of time, they change the plan and nobody has to die in a suicide charge. But that's not actually how it works. Here's the problem. The Titan serum situation, where both Erwin and Armin end up dying at the same time, that's not a random coincidence. It's the result of a very specific chain of events. Erwin gets hit during the charge. Armin gets burned by Bertholdt's colossal titan. Both of those things happen within the same battle, just in different locations. Reborn Levi could absolutely warn Erwin that Zeke is waiting outside. He could tell him that Bertholdt is the colossal titan. He and Erwin could restructure the entire mission plan from the ground up, and that's exactly what they do. With forewarning, Levi would push for a plan that does not require Erwin to personally lead a death charge. Instead, Levi himself handles Zeke early, using the forest terrain to his advantage, just like he does in the original story, but this time without needing the sacrificial charge to create the opening. Erwin stays back and coordinates. The mission's core objective, sealing the wall, reaching the basement, remains intact. And here's what that means. Erwin survives Shiganshina. He doesn't need the serum. Armin still gets burned by the colossal titan, and the serum goes to Armin, because that crisis still happens. But this time, Erwin is standing right there when Armin wakes up. The Survey Corps walks away from Shiganshina with everything. The basement, the truth about the outside world, and their commander. Section 5. The Butterfly Effect. What Erwin alive changes. This is where things get really interesting, because Erwin Smith being alive past Shiganshina isn't just an emotional win. It reshapes the entire final arc. In the original story, Erwin's death leaves a leadership vacuum that Hongja Zoe fills as the next commander. Hongja's brilliant and deeply moral, but Hongja's not Erwin when it comes to large-scale political strategy and calculated ruthlessness. And the Survey Corps in the final arc desperately needed Erwin-level chess moves. With Erwin alive, the response to Eren's isolation and the rise of the Yeagerists looks completely different. Erwin understands political power. He spent years navigating the corrupt royal government inside the walls. He knows how to play factions against each other, how to control information, how to build alliances under pressure. He would not let Eren simply drift into radicalization without a confrontation, and not just a physical one. There's also the matter of Zeke's euthanasia plan. Zeke's entire idea was to use the Founding Titan's power, accessed through his royal blood, to sterilize all Eldians, ending the cycle of Titan inheritance by making Eldians infertile. No more subjects of Ymir, no more Titans, ever. Zeke believed this was mercy. Eren pretended to go along with it, secretly planning to betray Zeke and use him purely to access the Founding Titan for the rumbling instead. Erwin, alive and at full capacity in the final arc, would be the one person with the strategic mind and the authority to potentially stop Eren before that plan reaches the point of no return. He spent his entire career trying to expose the truth about the world. Now that truth is sitting in front of him, and so is the cost of it. The question of whether even Erwin could truly stop Eren is a hard one, but the one thing he could definitely do is buy more time, create better options, and keep the Survey Corps from fracturing the way it does in the original. Section 6. Zeke and the Thunder Spear. Now let's talk about Levi's second great failure in the original story, the Thunder Spear explosion. After Shiganshina, the war between Paradis and Marley escalates. Zeke ends up captured by the Survey Corps, and Levi is personally assigned to transport him, with a Thunder Spear lodged in Zeke's stomach as insurance. One wrong move and Levi detonates it. But Zeke, realizing Levi is about to kill him, takes the extreme gamble of pulling the pin himself, triggering the explosion from the inside. Levi is caught completely off guard. The blast tears through both of them. Levi loses 2 fingers on his right hand, suffers severe facial scarring, including a wound across his right eye, and is left in a coma. Now Reborn Levi already knows this is exactly the kind of move Zeke will pull. Zeke is a survivor above all else, and he's smart enough to calculate that detonating the spear himself is the only play he has left if he's truly cornered. So this time, Levi simply doesn't give him the opportunity. The Thunder Spear gambit only works if Zeke has time and desperation on his side. Reborn Levi keeps him more heavily restrained, stays at a greater distance when Zeke starts talking, and never lets the conversation reach the emotional flashpoint that triggered the explosion explosion in the first place. When Zeke tries to pull the pin, he can't. And this time, Levi takes him down on his own terms, fully intact. He doesn't lose his fingers, he doesn't lose sight in his eye, and he doesn't spend weeks in a coma while the Yeagerists consolidate power. Section 7. The Rumbling. Can Levi stop Eren? And now we get to the question the whole video has been building toward. Eren Yeager starts the rumbling. He uses the Founding Titan's power, accessed through his contact with Zeke's royal blood, to unleash the Wall Titans, hundreds of thousands of colossal titans that had been dormant inside the walls for generations. His goal is to destroy all life beyond Paradise Island, wiping out roughly 80% of humanity in order to end the cycle of war and persecution against the Eldians forever. His former comrades, the surviving Survey Corps, alongside Marley and warriors including Reiner and Annie, unite to stop him. And in the original story, it comes down to Levi killing Zeke to sever Eren's connection to the Founding Titan, and Mikasa ultimately killing Eren himself. So what does Reborn Levi actually change here? Here's the hard truth. The rumbling is baked into Eren's nature as the Attack Titan. The Attack Titan's power includes seeing the future memories of its later inheritors, meaning Eren was always going to receive visions of the rumbling from the moment he inherited the Titan. The path toward this ending was set long before any of us even realized it. But that doesn't mean nothing changes. With Erwin alive, the political situation on Paradis is less chaotic. The Yeagerists, Eren's hardline radical supporters led by Flock Forster, have a much harder time seizing control of the island when Erwin is still commanding the Survey Corps. That buys time, maybe crucial time. With Levi uninjured, no missing fingers, no eye damage, no months-long coma, he is at full strength when the final conflict arrives, and a fully intact Levi is terrifying. We're talking about the man who in a single encounter defeated the Beast Titan while simultaneously killing multiple Titan escorts, all while protecting a mission that dozens of other soldiers couldn't have managed. At full capacity, Levi is a completely different force in the final battle, and here's the most interesting part. In the original story, Levi kills Zeke at the end, decapitating him, which severs Eren's connection to the Founding Titan and halts the rumbling. That still happens. Levi still kills Zeke, but this time, it happens faster, cleaner, and with far less collateral damage to the Survey Corps in the battles leading up to it. Does that save Eren? No. Eren's fate, being killed by Mikasa, is the conclusion of Eren's own arc, not Levi's. That moment belongs to Mikasa. But does Reborn Levi save more of his comrades along the way? Almost certainly. Hanji Zoe, who sacrifices themselves in the original final arc to buy the team time, might survive. Jean, Connie, and the others who get battered in the approach to the Founding Titan, with better leadership and a fully capable Levi running point, more of them make it through. Section 8. What Levi actually gets in the end. In the original story, Levi survives Attack on Titan, but he ends up scarred, partially disabled, sitting in a wheelchair in the epilogue, watching the next generation move forward while he is quietly left behind. He never got to fulfill the promise he made to Erwin. He never got to see Erwin's dream of uncovering the truth about the world pay off in the way he'd hoped. In this Reborn timeline, Levi gets something he was never allowed to have the first time. He gets to keep the people he loves. Erwin is alive. Petra is alive, and yes, Eren is still gone. That wound doesn't close. But the war for Paradis doesn't leave Levi broken in the same way. Humanity's strongest soldier spent his entire life in the original story watching everyone around him die while he survived. That was his curse as much as it was his strength. But Reborn Levi doesn't just survive this time. This time, he wins. So that's how I see it playing out. But I want to know what you think. Could a Reborn Levi actually save Erwin, or is Erwin's death always going to happen one way or another? And do you think stopping the Thunder Spear moment is really as simple as staying alert, or does Zeke always find a way? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want more videos like this, click on the next one right here.